Hello children, I hope you all are good. Today we are going to discuss very interesting topic of the Indian history, that is the revolt of 1857. And in this chapter we are going to study what was the reason of the revolt of 1857, what was its impacts, why it was not so successful, what was the problem behind this failure of the revolt. But yes, this revolt was having the great significance in the history of India. You know, beta, we know very well that the Britishers were capable to capture the Indian territories, to destroy the Indian social, political scenario. But we are not coward, and that time also we were not coward. Indians are not going to accept this domination cowardly. We tried very hard. On the contrary, a crucial study of incidents would prove that whenever and wherever Indians got the opportunity to present themselves, they presented. Even one or another day, beta, they did so many uprising. There were so many sparks of the revolt. It means that Indians were brave and Indians are brave. So we haven't accepted the domination of the Britishers cowardly. So overall, you can see in the Indian history, there are so many uprisings spread in the different parts of the India. And in these uprisings, not only a particular community of the India, but the different people, like you are having the zamindars, patwaris, peasants, and even the business class, and the different peoples, and sepoys also. Local chief also, they also participated in these uprisings. So overall, Indian protested whenever they get the chance that they are not going to accept the power of the Britishers quietly. So in these uprisings, there is one famous rebel, that is the revolt of 1857. You know, beta, this revolt of 1857 is an event of great significance in the history of India. We remember this revolt as the first war of independence of India. Why? Because there were so many rulers and even so many sepoy and people participated in against of the domination of the Britishers. So in a way, it was the last attempt by the marginalized, or you can say deposed Indian ruling class, peasants, etc. So they tried that yes, we have to make downfall the power of the Britishers. So now we are going to discuss about the revolt of 1857. See beta, the varying condition of the time resulted on the revolt of 1857. It was not only that one day this revolt has happened. There were so many reasons behind this revolt of 1857. Several factors together worked for this sepoy mutiny of 1857. But yes, of course, the anti-people policies of the colonial administration was probably the basic factor of this revolt, because Britishers had made so many policies which were not good for the development of India, which tried to make India as a slave, which showed that Indians are primitive and backward. So these anti-policies against the India that made the basic factor and the base for this revolution. Now, a situation where they could no longer tolerate foreign rule was that the immediate cause. What was that immediate cause that gave the birth to the revolt of 1857? That was the issue of cartridge. That intentionally issued. This cartridge was issued or introduced in the infilled rifle. There was one rifle which was named as New Infilled Rifle. And in this rifle, this cartridge was used. So, this cartridge was made with the fat of cow and pig. And now what happened? The sepoy has to pick it out. And this fat of cow and pig, that is against the religion of Orthodoxy Hindu and Muslim. So that angered both the community, and that's why this was the immediate cause that the sepoy protested and rebelled against the British Empire. Now we are going to discuss about the different causes of the 1857 revolt. The beta, it had a deep underlying social causes हैं, political, economic, military and religious causes. So different level पे we are having the different causes for this 1857 revolt. This was not a sheer spontaneous uprising. You cannot say कि 1857 revolt is happened only in a day. No, there were several factors and several reasons in the different area which gave birth to this revolt. Now see, let's discuss the political causes of this revolt. As you have heard about the Lord Dalhousie, Lord Dalhousie has given one policy that named Doctrine of Lapse. What does this policy mean? According to this Doctrine of Lapse policy, beta, Lord Dalhousie took over all the territories of those rulers who died without leaving any natural male heir. Means the ruler who don't have their own son and they died. Then that ruler's territory, that ruler's area will come under the British rule. So this was the Doctrine of Lapse, and that was very against the Indian ruler. This is not fair that if I don't have a son, so my all territory will pass on in the hand of the Britishers. This was very wrong. So when the Peshwa Bajirao died, you can see Nana Sahib. So when Peshwa Bajirao died, he adopted the son, that is Nana Sahib. And Nana Sahib has to govern the territory of Peshwa Bajirao. But what happened? That Britishers, as per the policy of Doctrine of Lapse, they refused that they are not going to accept Nana Sahib as the son of Peshwa Bajirao because he was the adopted son. The claim of the adopted son of the ruler of Jhansi was also not accepted, and the state of Jhansi was also annexed in the British Empire. Means not only the Peshwa Bajirao, Jhansi, Satara, there are so many territories who were captured by the Britishers under this policy of Doctrine of Lapse, where the ruler, where the king did not have his own natural son. So that was the political cause of this revolt, where the rulers, Indian rulers who were dissatisfied with this Doctrine of Lapse policy. Now we are going to discuss about the economic causes of this revolt. Economic causes means what was the condition of economy at that time. As a result of the industrial revolution, what happened? There were so many machine-made goods that came from the England. You can say the English cloth. They came into the Indian market. And those machine-made goods or clothes were very cheaper as compared to the Indian handloom fabrics. So what happened? Consequently and gradually, in the whole Indian market, they captured. Means there was a demand of the English cloth because they were cheaper. And the weavers employed in the textile industries at the Murshidabad lost their job and become opponent of the English. Because now the Indian weavers, they don't have work because their fabrics were not in so much demand. So Indian market को capture करना, that was also the big problem for the Indian weaving communities. Second, the commercial policies of the British was directly opposed to Indian trade and commerce. Whatever the policy they have introduced at the commercial level, that only and only favor the British goods. Custom duty they imposed on the Indian goods. Now see, if we are going to sell any product in the market and Britishers are going to take or collect the tax from us, that goods become the expensive because we have to pay the tax. So that custom duty was only imposed on Indian goods, not to the Britishers' goods. This led rise in the price of Indian goods in England. So in England also we are unable to sell our product because our product become the expensive. So consequently the demand for Indian goods in the British market was also decreased. So see beta, in the first reason we have seen Indian market was captured by the Britishers. In the second reason we have seen due to the excess custom duty, the Indian goods become the very expensive, and in British market also we lost the demand of Indian goods. Now the third setup, during the rule of the English, both agriculture as well as the agriculturist both were suffered. Jamidars, they accepted as the owner of the land, and now they deposited the fixed amount in the government treasury and collected high revenue as much as they can collect from the peasant. Means they squeeze the peasants. Why? Because they are collecting so many high tax revenue from the land, from the agricultural product, and because of this the peasants become the poorer and poorest. Now, heavy taxes had been levied on the people, but people did not have capacity to pay them. The normal people, they don't have as much salary or as much income that they can pay the heavy tax. So people did not have capacity to pay them. Hence, what happened? Extortion. The British were only interested in maximum tax collection with minimum work or minimum effort. So that's why also the people of the different class, whether the industrialists, whether the peasant, whether the common people, due to their bad and worst economic condition, they also started to protest against the British policies. Now moving to discuss about the social causes of this revolt. One of the main cause of 1857 revolt was social dissatisfaction. Now, how this social dissatisfaction created among the Indians? Number one, the British wanted to abolish the Sati Pratha. Though it is good, Sati Pratha was not a good tradition. But those who were very orthodoxy Indian and those who looked at this is the hit on our Indian tradition, on our Indian religion, they became the enemy of the Britishers. Then second, William Bentinck introduced many social reforms. He stopped child marriage, abolished the custom of sati. While this was good thing for us, if we are going to see today, child marriage should abolish and sati pratha also abolished. But think about that time where the people were accepted these as the condition, these as the tradition of the India. Now they thought that Britishers want to change all the social tradition and culture and they want to introduce their British culture in Indian society. So those orthodoxy people once again became the enemy of William Bentinck and the British rule. Then the third, the English preached Christianity through the educational institution. Now here also this was against the Indian religious belief. If someone is going to teach us only and only Christianity and its advantage, and they are going to show us that we are and our religion is very primitive and we are not the good enough tradition and culture, then this became the another cause of the dissatisfaction among the society. Then people also believed that as soon as railway reached some corner of the country, the English influence would follow and undermine the existing social order. Means people believe that these Britishers came here to crush the Indian tradition, to crush the Indian religious belief and to convert the Indian into the Christianity. So this was a social dissatisfaction which made people unite and to fight against the British rule. Now moving to the religious causes of the 1857 revolt. Christian priests were openly trying to convert Indian people by offering them different types of the facilities and privileges. If you are going to convert into the Christianity, we will provide you the education, the money and the different privileges. This alarmed the rank and file of society. Why they are going to convert the Indian into the Christianity, whether they are Muslim or Hindu. So this was the also religious cause that this hurt the Indian religion. Second thing, Dissatisfaction among the Indians grew with the spread of Western education. They believed that under the gap of the education of the British, they were trying to get Indians to abandon their culture, heritage and convert to the Christianity. Means why they are teaching the Western education, why they are not following or flourishing the Gurukul or the traditional Indian Pathshala or Indian teaching. So there was the alarm situation for the Indian also that maybe by teaching the Western education, they will convert the whole Indian population into the Christianity. Then we are moving to discuss about the military causes of 1857 revolt. See beta, we have discussed the different aspects of these causes. Now moving to the military causes. There was also many unsatisfactory features in the Indian army at that time. So why those sepoy, Indian sepoy were discontented with the British rule? Number one, there was a great degree of inequality of treatment between the Indian sepoy and the European troops. Means whether the Indian joined the British troops, army, but still there was the inequality. The officers no longer treated the men under them with due consideration. Even a newly recruited English officer considered himself as a very superior person in front of the Indian Subedar who served under them. Overall, the treatment was not good. Inequality shown in this Indian troops and in between the British troops. Ill treatment was also there, and Indian sepoys shook their loyalty to the British and to the army they had set up. There was a question for the Indian sepoy why they are so much loyal to the Britishers when they are treating them in the army. Means they are going to humiliate them. There is no equality in that army. So this was the question for the Indian sepoy also, why they are in this troop. Second, the discipline in the army had also become very lax. This was due to the system of promotion of seniority. Always the high post has been given to the Britishers, and the Indian always become the Subedar or the normal sepoy. So Indians are not selected at the high post. That is also very wrong. Then most of the company's army consisted of Brahmins and Thakur of East India. Being high caste Hindu, they were very sensitive to the variety of infringement that affected their orthodoxy way of life. Though they were working in the British troop as the sepoy, but they were belong to the Brahmins and Thakurs, so they are having feeling of their religion. So wherever their religion was crushed, they feel very bad. But as the army's scope of operation increased, the earlier atmosphere of tolerance towards these demands of higher Hindu hardened and concessions such as segregation, segregate kar do, barracks, separate mess, separate arrangement, no longer to be maintained. Means they feel somewhere their religion is going to be humiliated or destruct. Then the General Service Enlistment Act. This act you have to learn beta. The General Services Enlistment Act. This was passed for the new recruits, required them to serve anywhere in the British Empire. And this act also fanned the flames of anger against the British. While the number of Indian soldiers was by far larger than the British sepoy. At that time ratio was 6 Indian and the 1 Britishers. Their enormous numerical superiority encouraged the Indian soldiers to rise up against the Britishers. Sepoy think that we are great in number. 6 Indian and then 1 British sepoy. Then 6 Indian, then 1 British sepoy. And this gave them a call that unite themselves, and whatever they are doing in against of the Indian sepoy, we need to fight against them. So in this way, military causes means the sepoys were also against the Britishers. Now moving to the immediate cause, that in the introduction also I have given this cause. Immediate cause was the introduction of the cartridge in the Enfield rifle. That cartridge was made up of the fat of cow and pigs, And though the British government denied the truth, no, we hadn't made such a cartridge which is made up of the fat of cow and pig. But this was there, or you can say the rumor spread. And what happened? But to use these cartridges, since the paper cover of the cartridge had to be bitten off before they could be loaded into the rifle. So how could they bitten off the fat of the pig and cow? The sentiment of both Hindu and Muslim sepoy destroyed. And on being forced to use this cartridge, Mangal Pandey, he was a sepoy of the Barakpur regiment. Mangal Pandey name you have to remember, beta. At Barakpur regiment, he rebelled. He denied that he will not use this cartridge. And what happened? He was caught and hanged in front of every soldiers. And this gave the uprise to the sepoys. No, now this is the time we have to fight, we have to rebel, we have to revolt against the Britisher. And that was the spread of the 1857 revolt. Now let's discuss how this revolt spread to the other part of the country. Because causes so we have discussed. Now how it is spread. The great revolt began in the Barakpur. Why we have discussed about the Mangal Pandey na? So from there it started. Now Barakpur is a town to the north of Calcutta. East India आप देखो Calcutta में, ठीक है? At the end of January 1857. Now what happened? The news about the new cartridge spread from one cantonment to the another, and then another, means the different sepoy cantonment. This news spread that cartridge is made up of the fat of cow and pig. British government tried to suppress this uprising at first, but Barakpur was against it with the excitement. What happened? The Indian soldiers at Barakpur, they refused. Means the Mangal Pandey, when he was hanged, when he refused, no, he is not going to use this cartridge, he fired at an English officer and he was arrested there and then hanged. The first martyr of the revolt was Mangal Pandey, and this was not tolerated by the other sepoy of Barakpur and the other sepoy of the other regiment. He just denied. And why you people are made us compulsory that use this cartridge? So if the question came who was the first martyr of this revolt, you have to give the answer Mangal Pandey. And then what happened on May 9th? Date you have to remember. On May 9, 1857, 90 soldiers of the army stationed at Meerut, means Barakpur जो कि कोलकाता में है, from there they started to march to the Meerut, 57 kilometer from Delhi also. Now what happened? Either the Delhi regiment or the Meerut regiment, other regiment, the sepoy refused to use this cartridge. 85 of them were disarmed, arrested and jailed for 10 years. Means Britishers what they did? They disarmed them and arrested them and gave them the sentence of 10-year imprisonment. Now what happened in the next day? On the May 10th, the whole Meerut army was in revolt. What is this? If we are denying, you are capturing us, put behind the bar. So the whole Meerut army, they started the rebel. The soldiers stormed in the jail, released the prisoners. All the British officers were shot dead there, and the banner of the revolt was unfurled. And the soldiers and the people here openly challenged the Britishers. Okay, now we are here. You fight with us. We are not going to tolerate your dominance, your whatever the policies you are made against us. The soldiers, when they started this revolt from the Meerut, they started to march towards the Delhi, where the local infantry also joined them. Means whenever they are walking, so local infantry, local soldiers, local people also joined them and killed all the British officers, whatever they find in their way. They were very angry at that time. In Delhi at that time, the old Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar II was proclaimed as the last ruler of India by Britishers. Now with the revolt of Bengal army, and the revolt then spread to the Meerut to Delhi, Delhi to Awadh, Awadh to Rohilkhand, then Doab, then Bundelkhand, then central India, and the large part of Bihar. These all area rose up in the revolt. In this way the revolt spread. The princes of many Indian states, Nabha, Patiala, Jaipur, they remained loyal to the English also, even as a part of their army revolted. Means see the contrary situation, where there are so many states rulers, they are rebelling. They had started the revolt against the Britishers. These princes of Nabha, Patiala and Jaipur, they remained loyal to the Britishers. Though their army was against the Britishers, but they hadn't participated in this revolt. This is the disunity of India. At some places the revolt of army was followed by the revolt of civilian population. Means the Sepoy mutiny, now the civilian, the local people, ordinary people also join this mutiny or the rebel. Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar, Nana Sahab, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, Maulvi Ahmad Shah of Faizabad, Begum Hazrat Mahal of Awadh, Kunwar Singh of Ara district in Bihar, and General Bakht Khan of the Mughal army. They were some of the important and prominent leader of this revolt who lead the revolt very bravely. The rulers of Hyderabad, Patiala, Gwalior, Nabha, Baroda and Jaipur, along with the Gorkha and the Sikh leader, sided with the English. They have given the support to English. Though where these rulers, these leaders, they are fighting against the Britishers, but they were supporting the English. Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Bareilly, Jhansi, they were the main center at that time of the revolt. Beta, you have to learn these main center names, and this can come into the map question also. To show these center of the 1857 revolt. So Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Bareilly, Jhansi, these were the main center of 1857 revolt. Now let's discuss first the Delhi. The soldier marched towards the Delhi from the Meerut on 10th May, and the English officers in Delhi made a futile attempt to arrest the advance of the revolutionary. Now the rebels declared that Bahadur Shah Jafar to be their king, to be the leader of their protest. Within the 4 or 5 days, they captured the whole Delhi. Now, Sir John Nicholson recaptured Delhi in September 1857. See, from May to September, Delhi was under the control of the Indian soldier under the leadership of Bahadur Shah Jafar. But unfortunately, in September 1857, John Nicholson, he recaptured Delhi. Thousands of people and soldiers were tortured in the several ways, put to the death under the supervision of General Neil. Bahadur Shah Jafar was also arrested at that time and sentenced to the life imprisonment, and he was also deported to the Rangoon. When I am talking about Rangoon, beta, that is the present day Myanmar. The present day Myanmar you have seen, na? India's neighboring country, that is Rangoon there, where he died in 1862. Now his two sons, his means Bahadur Shah Jafar, his two sons were shot dead before his eyes. Means that was a brutal suppression done by the Britishers, and this, when they shot these two sons, thus did the one powerful Mughal empire meet its inglorious end. That was the end of Mughal empire from the India, and now the British rule completely came into the India. So that was the story of Delhi. Now what happened in the Kanpur? At Kanpur, Nana Sahab, he declared himself to be the Peshwa. He was the adopted son of the Peshwa Bajirao. He was very brave and determined general. He led the revolt, captured the fort, and ably commanded the Tatya Tope. Tatya Tope was very good commander at that time. All Britishers, included women and children, were executed. See, in this Kanpur, what happened? They used the skill of guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare, you must have heard, this was used at the time of Shivaji, like the guerrilla, they are jumping from one and another place, na? Like the same tactics they are using in the 1857 revolt. Now the rebels were executed and tied to the mouth of cannon and blown to pieces. They bravely fought against the Britishers, but whenever they caught the rebellions, the people, those who were caught by the Britishers, they were tied on the mouth of cannon. Cannon means बेटा तोपें, तोपों के मुंह पे उन्हें बांध दिया जाता था, and then blast. They blown into the pieces. The English succeeded in recapturing the Kanpur city also. Nana Sahib escaped and he went to the Nepal and then into the hills where he died on later. So this was the destiny of Kanpur. Now moving to the Lucknow. The revolt of Lucknow was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal. She was a Begum of Awadh and the wife of Wazid Ali Shah, who was acting as the regent of her son. Rebel soldiers were assisted by disbanded soldiers of Awadh. Begum Hazrat Mahal, she organized the whole rebel in the Lucknow and attack on the Britishers. And at that time the general of the Britisher was Henry Lawrence and other Englishmen also. She attacked on Henry Lawrence also, the residency of the Britishers also. Sir Henry Lawrence was shot dead also. She bravely led the Awadh revolt. Now General Havelock came to rescue them but failed to do so. At last the British soldiers and civilians entered in the residency building, and then Lucknow was also recaptured or reoccupied in 1858. It took so 1 year at least. In 1858, by the British forces, Lucknow was recaptured and the Begum slipped away to the Nepal. Now moving to the Jhansi, how the Jhansi faced this revolt. Jhansi in central India, the revolt was led by the brave Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. When we say खूब लड़ी मर्दानी, वह तो झांसी वाली रानी थी. She was supported by Tatya Tope, the commander of Nana Sahibs. Both of them put up stiff competition, stiff resistance against the British. However, when all the chances of the victory ended, Rani escaped and joined the Tatya Tope at Kalpi. Kalpi is the name of place. Their combined forces were defeated in the Gwalior. The Rani died on June 17, 1858. For 1 year she fought very bravely till the last breath. And June 17, while fighting bravely in the battlefield, she died. When she was killed in action, Sir Hugh Ross, the commander of victorious British force, paid her the highest compliment when he said that she was the only man among the rebels. This was the great compliment given by the Ross to the Jhansi ki Rani, that she was the man. Her devoted followers burnt her body lest it should fall into the enemy hands. Tatya Tope kept the British forces engaged for another 2 years in central India and Rajputana. After Jamidar betrayed him, then he was also arrested and hanged. See, someone has betrayed, then Tatya Tope was defeated. Now moving to the Bihar. What happened in Bihar? In Bihar, the rebellion was led by Kunwar Singh, Raja of Jagdishpur, and his brother Amar Singh. They were supported by commanders Peer Ali. They had many encounters with the Britishers and took over the Azamgarh. Then later on, Kunwar Singh also joined the Nana Sahib forces but received a fatal wound while fighting and died in April 1858. See beta, this revolt at least for 1 year run in the different part of India. In the last battle of Jagdishpur, the British soldiers were routed after Kunwar Singh's death. His younger brother Amar Singh also fought till December 1859. इतनी लंबी लड़ाई उन्होंने भी लड़ी. If the Kunwar Singh was not wounded na, so he also moved to the battle. But yes, he was wounded and then died. Now we have discussed the different states, different reason where the 1857 revolt was spread. But why the revolt, which was sparked very bravely, very enthusiastically, why this revolt was failed? That is the question. We need to discuss the causes of the failure of this revolt. And there are many reasons why this revolt was not succeed. Number one, the revolt was not as widespread as sometimes portrayed. It could not embrace the entire country. If we are going to see the center of the 1857 revolt, you can see there were so many areas which was not the part of 1857 revolt. Means this revolt hasn't spread to the whole India. We cannot say all India struggle. Second, the Sikh, the Rajput and the Gorkha battalion remained loyal to the Britishers only. They hadn't given support to the Indian sepoy. Third, the revolt lacked unity. Sindhia, Holkar, Nizam, Raja of Jodhpur and other Rajput rulers, Nawab of Bhopal, rulers of Nabha, Patiala, Sind, many other ruling chiefs, zamindars, landlords, merchants. There are so many people who were still remain loyal to the Britishers, who were giving very much support to the Britishers. They were not giving support to this revolt of 1857. So this disunity that gave the blow to this revolt. Then different groups, states and chiefs, they were joining the revolt, had their own motive. Their target was not same. Their motive was very different because everyone, whosoever the leader, they want to make them free from the British rule. Selfishness of the leader sapped the strength of the revolt. Means the target was not clear to everyone. Then the revolutionaries were poorly organized. They don't have common plan of action. Means the lack of planning was also the reason of failure of this revolt. Then the revolutionary lacked resources. They don't have so much resources as the Britishers are having men, money, munitions, while the you can say the munitions, and while British government poured immense supplies of them to the India. They were having not lots of weapons in against of the British army. Then the revolt started much before the fixed date and time. See, when you have planned that on 31st May 1857 we will start this revolt, but unfortunately this revolt started on 9th May, much before. So all planning collapsed, disorganized. Then the postal and telegraphic system, whatever the means of communication were available at that time, that were controlled by the English. So they were unable to pass their messages on the time. And last but not least, with the fall of Delhi, the focal point of revolt disappeared. Because Delhi was the main center, the British could now wipe out the pockets of resistance individually. Delhi जब उनके हाथ में चला गया, then it was a failure of the revolt. So these were the reason. Now, what are the advantage of this revolt that we are studying till date this revolt? Number one, strong unity achieved. Advantage, after effect क्या हुआ? That revolt of 1857 remains the source of pride for every Indian on the all over globe till the time. We feel proud on this revolt. It was indeed a glorious chapter in the modern Indian history. It reflected the strong sense of unity amongst the Indian. That is the achievement of this revolt. Second, potential power of the people reflected. Revolt threw up many military leaders and statements. The bravery, heroism, patriotism displayed by the leaders like Nana Sahab, Tatya Tope, Lakshmi Bai, General Bhagat, they proved to be a source of great inspiration and patriotism. To be succeeding generation to generation, generation to generation, it helps in the struggle of freedom. Because when we are hearing about the heroism of these leaders, then it inspires us to fight against the Britishers. So that was also a great source of inspiration for the further fight against the British. The nature of elite and peasant participation. Now the elite class and the peasant class, they understand if we need to get freedom of the independence of the India, then we need to unite. We need to participate in any revolution. Until and unless the whole population is not going to participate in any movement, we cannot get the freedom. So that was also that elite and peasant now started to participate and ask for their rights. Not were the people themselves as enlightened as those of Europe who had brought about the political revolution, economic changes on the basis of certain principles, democracy, nationalism, social equality. There were people in various parts of the country, those who accepted the British rule since they thought it was best of them. So, zarurat kya thi? Need to change the mind. Brainwash. We don't need the British rule. We can have our own government. Now, going to discuss about the changes in the colonial rule after the revolt. So that was the advantage, somewhere we inspire and unite themselves. But what happened to the Britishers? Whether they changed something in the rule? The revolt was crushed, but the sacrifices had not been made in vain. A landmark in the history of British India, it produced a far-reaching consequences. The after effects were, number one, it ended the long period of misrule of East India Company. Now the Indian Empire was placed directly to the Queen Victoria. End of East India Company rule. Then second, the rule of Mughals and that of Peshwa also came to an end. Third, the post of Governor General was done away with. Now no more Governor General. The Viceroy were appointed in the Indian Dominion. Then fourth, the Indian rulers were assured that their state would no longer be taken over. They were also given the authority to declare their adopted son as the legal heir. So doctrine of lapse wali policy that ended here. Then fifth, a wall of hatred now arose between the English and Indian. That hatredness increased. The Indian masses were given an assurance that they would no force to convert into the Christianity. Side by side with the English Indian were also promised that they will get the high position according to their merit. Means previously what happened, the high positions were not given to the Indians. But now after this revolt, it was decided according to the merit, according to the talent, high position can be given to the Indian also. Then English continued their divide and rule policy even after the revolt. They were not ready to cut down this policy. The number of Indian soldiers in Indian army now reduced. Previously 6 Indian and 1 Britisher, but now the many Britishers and less Indian. In spite of its failure, the revolt of 1857 somewhere enlightened, awakened the spirit of Indians. It roused the national feeling, the nationalism for the independency of the India, or we can say it give the way to the rise of national movement for the independence of India. And that was the result that in 1947 we got the independence. So we can say this 1857 revolt was the first war of independence of India. Now, what the Queen Victoria proclaimed after this revolt? Let's discuss this. See, after this revolt, Queen Victoria, you can see in the picture, she has proclaimed, when she assumed the responsibility of governing the India, so the proclamation was issued. and that proclamation was read out by Viceroy Lord Canning at Allahabad on November 1, 1858. Whatever the proclamation she has told. So in proclamation it was written, it promised to respect the right of Indian princes and disclaimed any intention of extending British conquest in India. First proclamation, first promise. Okay, we are not going to take over the territory of Indian princes, we are not going to extend our territory. Then it also promised religious toleration and equal opportunities to the people of India. So the proclamation was very important, and it was very good promises given in that. But see beta, these promises were never fulfilled and never kept. This was just on the paper. Now, what was the nature of the revolt of 1857? There were two main views regarding the chart, if you can see the character of the revolt. One is the British account and another is the vernacular account. What Britisher says about this revolt, this is, it was not a revolt, it was not any revolution, it was just the sepoy mutinies. Few sepoys were there and they started to rebel against the Britishers just then. For them it was sepoy mutiny. Whether it is the Lawrence, Homeless, Reilly, Marshall, Trevely or Robertson, all these were the Britishers. So the mutiny of 1857 was wholly impatient, selfish sepoy. Mutiny was no national target. They said, these historians took the view that the discontent prevalent among the Indian sepoy was the major cause. For them, it was not the first war of independence of India. For them, it doesn't have any significance because there were few sepoys who were discontented for the infield rifle and the cartridge and they started the protest. Nothing else for them. But what the vernacular account says? Vernacular account says no, it was not the sepoy mutiny. It was the first war of independence. Many historians like V.D. Savarkar, Ashok Mehta, Dr. Tara Chand, K.M. Panikar and Arj Sitamaiya have described this 1857 revolt as the first war of independence of India. Even the Ashok Mehta pointed out that natural character of the revolt in his book 1857, that the Great Rebellion. He said, if it was sepoy mutiny, why it is spread to the many parts of the India and why the different rulers and Indian princes joined this. So from above discussion, it is quite evident beta that through this revolt of 1857 might have begun as a mutiny of sepoy, but soon it spread as a struggle of the independence. So we can say, yes, it was the first war of independence of India. So that's end for the chapter. Let's do the quick revision. Number 1, the revolt of 1857 was outcome of the changing condition of the time. Then commercial policy of the British was directly opposed to the Indian trade and commerce. Then we have discussed about the role of William Bentinck, who introduced several social reform. He stopped the child marriage and abolished the custom of sati. After that, we have discussed the General Service Enlistment Act, which was passed for the new recruit to serve anywhere in the empire. Then we have discussed the Great Revolt began in the Barakpur, which is the city in the Calcutta, at the end of January 1507. But yes, of course, this revolt has to be started in the May 1857, but much before it has started. So that's end for the chapter. I hope you understand each and every point. Now it's your turn. Do the exercise carefully.